Boom! Hello and welcome to the Executive Protection Lifestyle Podcast with your host, Byron Rodgers. This podcast is dedicated to the executive protection practitioner, the private security professional. In this podcast, we're going to talk about the mental, emotional, psychological, physiological fitness that goes into being an efficient and effective executive protection agent. Whether you're in law enforcement, whether you're a mom that's looking at how to protect her children, or a father that's focused on how to protect his family, I believe this podcast has something for all of you. We might even get into some tales from the crypts of true Hollywood stories from time to time. I'm doing this podcast because I feel the reality of this job is simple. If you really want to be good at executive protection, it's more than just a job. It really is a lifestyle. And those of you who've been in the game for any serious amount of time, you already know what I'm saying is true. So if that sounds interesting to you, enjoy the show. Out. Boom. Hey, everybody. Byron Rodgers here, the Executive Protection Lifestyle and Bravo Research Group. I've got some amazing gentlemen that I had the pleasure of meeting a few months back in some circumstances where I really needed some professionals to help me out with regards to getting things done. Michael and Constantine of Sentinel Security. It's an honor to be here with these gentlemen. How y'all doing today?
Thanks very much, man. Amazing.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Absolutely. You guys, I needed help, so I reached out to you guys, and you were able to supply me with what I needed on a weekend when, everybody in the industry was really, really busy. So I really appreciated that, and the work product was fantastic, and my clients were happy, and I think that's what kind of started our relationship off. And then kind of we met in person when you guys came to LA to visit. Right. And we had this conversation that was just huge, it was, for me, and I think for you guys, it was awesome. And I think that's really what triggered me to want to have y'all on the show to share kind of what you're about, what your company's about, the direction you're taking things and everything like that. So, without further ado, speak on it.
No, amazing, man. Well, look, thank you so much again for having us, Byron. I love the word organic because it really has been a word that has kind of, been over us since inception. For us to come down to LA and for us to connect with you prior to that and just where we are right now, again, organic, and it's amazing. For us, obviously I'm Constantine. I'm one of the CEOs of Sentinel Security. My partner, who's not here with us today, is out of the country. I also have Mike Reventar here, who's our COO. And with the several of us that basically put our heads together, we're really trying to just kind of trailblaze a path in our city that will become viral and contagious around the world in how we do security.
Awesome. And just to jump almost right into it, this way of doing security, what are kind of the values behind that? What is the differentiation with regards to that?
I'll speak to that. So this is Michael saying hello to yourself and everyone that's listening. First off, I just want to say hello to Los Angeles. Whenever I hear the words, there's something in my heart that gets nice and warm and fuzzy. So just when you step outside into the heat, right? It's been pretty cold in Toronto, Canada right now. So just embrace it for us up here.
Enjoy the heat. Yeah, dig it, man.
But in terms of values, I think one thing that we kind of have across the board within our company and even our clientele, we've made a real conscious effort to work with like-minded individuals. And I think if there's one thing at the core, there's nothing fancy. It's hard work.
Yeah.
There's something about just hard work that as much as we learn, as much as we know about, as many self-help books there are in the bookstores, and everyone kind of has a new paradigm or movement that they're trying to embrace. At the core, hard work is probably the rarest thing that we find.
Mm-hmm.
It's a thing that I guess for the most part, everyone tries to portray, but in a fleeting moment, it just dissipates over time. And we've seen even some of our best that started strong, they quickly fade out. So I think hard work over the long haul is the bet on everything we do. So everything that we value, from serving our clients and essentially approaching the work with great care, with great detail, bringing kind of our whole body, mind, and spirit towards the work. All of things, I mean, those are all really nice, but if it doesn't have a table to stand on, and for us, I think the foundation is hard work.
Yeah.
No, that's not a answer, but that's the truth.
No, that's the truth. I think if you trace like I think a lot of times now in our world, we look at like the surface of things, oh, well, these guys, they have these accolades, they have these clients, they have this look, this feel, and people are attracted to that. But I think what they fail to realize is that at the genesis of all that, at the foundation of all that, and what will make that work product valuable or not in the end, and what really will determine whether or not it's just like, a fleeting, the topping to the cake or not, is if when you get down to it, there's actually hard work down there,
Right.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Exactly.
So I love the simplicity of it. Simplicity is the ultimate, right? What is it? Leonardo da Vinci, simplicity is the ultimate sophistication, something along those lines.
Yeah.
Right.
Clive Davis, the great trumpet player who taught Quincy Jones how to play trumpet, he's got a great quote: "Simplicity is the most complex form."
Yeah, man. Yeah. So no, I love that. And now, I feel like in today's world, I always hear my parents say we have it easier than the last couple generations. But like, really, I feel like it's easier to stand out today if you have a good work ethic. Even with guys that I'm vetting, with guys that I'm working with and hiring and putting in places. There's some guys that just want to make a play. There's some guys that just want to show up. I call them and they get things done and they get in there, and I'm like, man, it's refreshing, but it's becoming more and more rare, so,
right.
To guys out. Go ahead.
That's the positive side of it, is that I guess when the average, the median, the barometer is so low, you just do a little bit and you do stand out. I mean, I guess that's the advantage.
Yeah. I mean, and so like to guys out there that are like, well, geez, I want to get into executive protection, and, how can I like kind of like stand out in the game? Real talk, work hard, cross your T's, dot your I's, but like work hard and work smart, learn, be a sponge, and just be willing to do what other people aren't willing to do. So I think that's how I earned a lot of my stripes. Was I was just like, I chased the pager and I took the job, whatever it was, I just took it. And I worked everything like as if I was, doing it to my Lord, like I just worked everything. Exactly. As best I could,
I like how you said, be a sponge. I mean, we say this all the time to new people that are coming on board, and even to our existing personnel, is that the one thing that can take you out completely from moving forward is an ego. Yeah. You need to have a humble spirit. You need to have a teachable spirit. You need to be like a sponge that can absorb basically what we're going to pour into you. Because at the end of the day, if you're full of water and you cannot absorb anymore, I mean, at the end of the day, you kind of like hit your cap, right? I mean, you know it all, right? I mean,
I guess you've arrived already.
Yeah.
You don't need anything else. Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. No, I couldn't agree more, man. Got that empty cup, that Bruce Lee stuff, man.
That's right.
That's where it's at. You were talking about kind of the interview process, Constantine. You mentioned how it's like this really kind of, maybe non-conventional process that you guys go into, as far as like, not so much seeking to understand, your kind of hard skills, but kind of seeking to understand the person on a basic level. Can you talk a little bit about that and why you do that and things like that?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean,
don't give away any secrets, just in case.
Yeah, for sure.
Michael's like,
no, I say it because people might listen and come in prepared.
Yeah. You know what? I think I actually I mentioned this quote to you when we met, but it's by P.T. Barnum, and it was nobody ever made a difference by being like everyone else. Okay, so for I give an example. With many companies, when they're getting in the interview stages, I mean, we have an administration team, we have a human resources team. They can very easily conduct our interviews for us. Okay, and we actually used to do that. We used to have a team that would do our interviews for us, and they would do the method of spending an hour with each applicant, asking generic questions. What are your strengths? What are your lots of stuff that we could all go online and rehearse for, right? So for us, if we're going to do something different, I mean, at the end of the day, it really comes from the top, right? And as visionaries, to have such a strong passion of how you want to see security, presented in our city and around the world. Yeah. I don't think there's anyone that can do a better job than it coming right from the top. Okay. So for us, I like to be involved in the interview stages. And I always tell this to people. I mean, sometimes I don't mention at all what my position is when I'm doing the interviews, but other times I do. And it kind of blows them off. They're like, wait a second, the CEO of the company is interviewing me. I mean, I'm expecting to go through a different layer. But for us, the passion is so contagious that at the end of the session, it's like they just went through some sort of healing conference kind of thing where they're like, what's happening right now? I feel like this may not even be the right job for me, but I feel like something very special has happened here, right?
Yeah. I mean, there's been a lot of individuals who've said that. They're like, you know what? I don't know if I can meet your expectations, but my life is changed.
Yeah, exactly. So for us,
good.
I mean, part of the strategy is because, again, we're very clear how we want it done. And it's not to say that we don't have personnel that can still carry out the passion. I mean, they can 100% do that. But for me, I say it in the interview. I built this vision of how I want to see security done. And for myself, if you're going to come in to represent what we do, I need to make sure that I have the confidence that you're going to carry this out. You know what I mean? And and I like to, and then I go right into examples, because something they can relate to is a good story or an example. So I'll tell them, do you guys have high-speed internet? And they'll be like, oh yeah, of course.
Oh yeah.
I'm like, okay, good. I go, so if your high-speed internet, which you pay more money for, just suddenly stops slowing down, would you be okay with that? And they go, absolutely not. I go, you'd probably call the provider and say, I'm paying more, so why am I not getting more, right? And I go, and that's kind of like how our relationship is with our services that we provide. We're saying their standard is here, and for it to be up here, that is kind of what we're saying. So it has to be up there. So for it to drop right now, it's very impactful, right? Yeah. Where for someone else, where the standard is right low, it wouldn't even make a difference.
Yeah.
So a big part of us to the interview process is sharing the passion, getting them excited, inspiring them, and then through that, I'll find out who you are as an individual. I mean, I don't need to ask you what your strengths are to find out who you are. I'll ask you a different question that you never was able to rehearse. Yeah. And then from there, it's like, okay, great. That tells me a lot.
Yeah. Because I think, and something I've learned is, we can teach them hard skills, but character, man. I don't want to be, I can't let you have to go through the inevitable process of learning character when you've got my jersey on your back, my brand on, my name on it.
Right.
I love you, but I can't let you do it. So
that's right.
Yeah, man, I love that. I love it. It's really
a perfect picture.
Yeah. Yeah. No, thank you, man. Because I feel you, and I thought it kind of changed the way I was looking at it too. Because I haven't been doing a lot of vetting and things like that for too long. So I've really learned to value getting to know the person, getting to know kind of, their story, understanding their brain map, the way they navigate the world, because that's in the end, that's really what you're putting your name on. And something I've spoken multiple times on the podcast about is, to the agents out there that are working, you got to realize you got 3 different name brands on you. You're representing 3 brands at all times. You're representing the brand of the people paying you, the company that you're working for, obviously, but you're also representing your client's brand. So everything you do has got to be in keeping with your client and your client's brand as well, because you can damage that brand by doing the wrong thing on any given day, you know.
That's right.
And then also you're representing your brand, you know, the pride you have in your own last name, you know. And I look for people that say, you know what, I'm going to do a good job because my name's attached to it. You know, that for me is like, this is the guy, you know, this is the guy I want to work with. So
I mean, I'll speak to that whole principle of building up or tearing down. That's a perfect example.
Yeah.
I mean, we usually apply it for individuals, but if we apply it towards, you know, as a group, building towards a vision, you know, having a great client base, a great work environment. We have guys for years who every single shift, no matter the conditions, and in Toronto, we get minus 30.
Yeah, you guys get some serious conditions.
Yes. I mean, it's a city of extremes, so the faint of heart can't last here. But I'll say that some of these guys, day in, day out, will just do incredible work, and then the next guy steps in and really quickly just tears it down. We're a little bit more brash with it. We'll say just kind of pisses on all the work that's been put in front of them, you know, and built before them. And again, that expectation, just like as we were talking about, there's hard work helps you to stand out above the crowd in a positive way. There's ways to stand out in a negative way.
Yeah.
And what we pride ourselves on is we're starting to see now, I guess when we talk about culture is this incredible unspoken that just guides and it gives and it just, there's a culture that we fostered, but there's also another element of it where it's just kind of taking a life of its own. And guys on the floor take it personally. They literally take it personally when someone doesn't perform alongside them. Okay.
Yeah.
And they'll check the individual. They'll have a conversation to clear expectation on what needs to happen moving forward. And if they're not confident, they're fine to say, listen, go home. We don't need you. Okay. There's an element of that. There's an element of it. But I mean, speaking to what Constantine was saying, I mean, high speed, high performance, if something has been directly identified as the reason or the cause, that weak link, we do what we can to rebuild it because that chain has to bear a load. And if they're too cool for school and they don't want to change and they don't want to be moldable and teachable, and I got this, you know, I've done this for 30 years. I know exactly how this works. We do them a favor and we let them shine elsewhere.
Yeah.
You know? That kind of speaks to kind of our approach with dealing with people who, again, piss on the work of those before them. You know, that reputation, the brand. I mean, there's something even beyond brand. I mean, it's a very new term, brand. I mean, if I talk to my grandma, I was with my grandma on the weekend. She's 96, turning 97. If I asked her thoughts on branding,
right?
You know, but something about, as you said, personal character. There's something about that person, who you are and who you represent, and that pride and ego for the right ways. You know, for the right reason. I think there's an element of that being lost, where we sometimes think, how does someone walk into a room, do what they do, and leave without any shame? I mean, that's surprised us at times.
Right.
There's zero shame on the gentleman. That guy's completely free. Like he can just do whatever he wants.
Right.
But I mean, no one's following that guy, and no one really cares what we're doing. So I say this, I'll wrap up my point with this, is that we pride ourselves that we have a group that cares for each other, you know, and they really push each other to do great work, to go beyond what they're capable of. We don't take it for granted. We know there's so many circles there where people work isolated, they work in solidarity, they work in an environment trying to steal credit. I think we know that we need each other. And that's one of the best things. Constantine, when he's doing interviews, he's digging for that. They don't know it, but he literally will ask, you know, I mean, I can't give out any trade secrets.
Never the goal, you know what I'm saying?
He will literally ask them to remember certain things that just happened, whether it was just a minute previous or even 10 minutes previous to that question. And you get that blank stare because he wants to see, were they listening? Okay.
Yeah.
Are they someone who's listening to what's being said, or are they only preparing their rehearsed answers? So he really disarms them, and he asks them questions kind of behind their back that spins them around, and they don't know where they are, what they're doing, and they almost, I guess there are a lot of times they forget they're in an interview.
Right? Yeah. Because the intensity of the situation.
Sometimes it's funny because it's actually intentional, but it gets so comfortable for them, they'll start throwing F-bombs, and then it's like, okay, great. I mean, great.
Thank you.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So it's good because when you can truly take someone out of that mold, right? You can start seeing who they really are. Because at the end of the day, you're acting in an interview. Like literally, you're just doing a job of acting. You know what I mean? You're either good at it or you suck at it right off the bat.
Right. Yeah. Or you're good enough to be closer to organic with it. You know what I mean? Like, like one feeling I've been able to walk into an interview with is like, I like myself. I've worked hard on myself. I'm presentable. So I'm going to be myself. Yeah. I mean, like, I'm going to just go in there and like, by the grace of God, I'm just going to be, you know what I mean? But that's a whole different, like, you know, but generally what you're saying is exactly what it is. It's like a honeymoon period. It's like, like, you know, it's like before you get married, two representatives are dating each other is what's happening.
That's right.
You know,
that's right. Absolutely.
And we know, like, I mean, from that interview process, as it starts to parlay into performance, you know, on the ground, we know that, you know, as you know, I guess when no one's acting anymore, what they really bring, this is who they really are. And what's plagued most people is, you know, sometimes it's behavioral. We're trying to figure out why does this person keep tripping up. At the end of the day, I think it almost speaks to insecurity. And we have a little saying that to do security well, you need to be secure. You know, and what Byron, what you were just talking about, knowing who you are, you know, and there's something about, it's not about assertiveness. It's not about your badge. It's not about even like the entity that you represent. It's literally like, are you secure? Are you secure in yourself? Do you have the backing? And that's, again, we know it's a dichotomy. To do security well, you have to be secure.
Be secure. It's so beautiful.
Yeah.
And that's so good, because that is one of the quintessential issues that I find with guys that are tough to work with, is that they're insecure. They're like, it's like a systemic thing. I run into it all the time. You have like, me and my guys say, we use the word initiated. So it's like there's a guy that's initiated, meaning like he knows who he is. He's already done his stuff. He's not trying to prove himself to everybody. You know, he's not big bad security guy, or, you know, the cup it stays half empty at least, you know, because he's like an initiated male. Like he's already handled his masculinity and he's secured himself. The client can, you know, can get upset, and he's grounded enough to deal with it effectively and professionally. And, you know, it's a Tuesday in executive protection. You know what I mean? It's just a Tuesday, you know? So, man, to do security, you must be secure. Man, that's good stuff. That if you learn anything, ladies and gentlemen, no, I mean that. I mean, it just speaks to so many things. I get in the chase, you know, you have the guys, they always, what's your background? You know what I mean? And it's like, yeah, I get it. You want to know who you're working with. I get it. But like generally the question comes from an insecure place. Like, how can I kind of like measure up to you? Like, you know, like this thing's happening. Man, I just really appreciate that. Cause I know as I go through my day, I'm going to just see that like strings of that value structure in the game, because it's just true. It's true. That's good. Oh man. And
I think we should make a t-shirt.
That's what I was about to say. That's a t-shirt right there. That's a t-shirt.
Yeah.
You know? And then you said some things that were really good, man. That culture, you know, being able to leverage a really healthy culture in the company and even just on a security detail. There's so much to be said for that. I mean, you guys talked about it, but because it's security is very interesting. You know, I had a buddy who was involved in something the other night where, you know, he had to leave a few of his agents in a situation and break contact and protect a client. And, you know, sometimes our job requires that, you know, because the client is that's the primary. And, you know, just having a culture where, you know, you can depend on the guy next to you, you know, knowing that you can, that they're not going to be stabbing you in the back, you know, knowing that, you know, that you guys are covered. There's just so much to be said for that. And I've seen guys that are like not the best agents and have even, problematic tendencies come into a culture. And that's one of the things that I always strive to do, is create a culture on the detail that's going to influence that's going to influence the guys that are lower on the totem pole out of their weaknesses and out of their vulnerabilities. Like one of the first things I say to a guy when they get to a detail is, hey, listen, your strength is within the group. Okay. Don't get swept off your feet trying to get FaceTime with the client, or, the client's going to like you. They're going to be nice to you. These types of things are going to happen, but don't start to think, that your success here depends on your relationship with the client,
Yes.
very largely, because you might be the flavor of the month now. You know what I mean? Like, you might be the new shiny thing now, but you got the game changes, and life is cyclical, and seasons and mountains and valleys. You won't be on top all the time. You're going to make a mistake. You're going to forget the car seat one day when we need to go here or there, whatever it is.
And that's when you need the team. You're going to want to blend into the background of the team when you
exactly.
do.
Yeah, man. And we're going to have to hide you. and, and then the client's going to ask about you. Like, yo, what's up with this Byron guy? Is he really good to go? And,
yeah.
Make sure you're treating everybody good on the way up,
Right.
Exactly.
But it helps create a strong team in that everyone starts to realize, hey, I got to cover my guys, and vice versa, and deal with things on a team level too, like you were saying. The more I can.
I like that. I like what you were saying there. Just like managing expectations, something we spoke about before.
Yeah.
Being able, I guess, to prime the individual so that they could succeed. You're prepping them, you're priming them. I mean, for us, that if there's anything that we have as a voice in leadership, we believe it's to prepare them to do incredibly well, and to give them an idea of the lay of the land, to give them an idea of what to expect, and to dissipate any false expectations they have. I mean, it's easier said than done. And sometimes, those false expectations come out at the wrong time.
Right.
Right.
So there's no way to foolproof, have a quality assurance plan that, that everything in your own little quarters gets resolved and reconciled. Sometimes it has to happen right on the field. And that's where, if guys are secure and if they're about the team, there's just a greater chance that they're going to work to a solution.
Mm-hmm. And the more secure, the more teachable, and all those things too, man. That's huge. What would you say would be one of your biggest learning experiences in the game? Biggest like a mistake or something. Now we're getting into the secure part, right?
Good. Yeah.
But like, just for people that are going to listen to this, we all have them, so what would be something that you guys really learned from?
I got one to share with
Constantine.
Constantine has probably a huge treasure chest that he'd like to.
I'm gonna let Mike go on this one right now, because to be honest, as much as I'm trying to think of what really stands out. There's been a lot of pivotal time frames throughout the company's existence where we use that to say, okay, we need to change something right now, or we need to make something better right now.
Yeah.
To be honest with you, that probably happens on a daily basis, and they happen in little small doses where if we're noticing that maybe something really, really small needs to be tweaked, it's better to make the adjustment right there. You know what I mean? It's like for example, stay with your oil changes every 3 months, because if you wait 6 months, then you're gonna start taking down the alternator potentially. You might start taking out the engine, and it becomes a really big problem. So for us, I think the key is to make small adjustments, little tweaks all the time. But I'm gonna let Mike jump into this one here, because I'm actually very interested myself.
Without again being as ambiguous as possible, because you never know who's listening.
Absolutely. That's the kind of the beauty and the science, the art to this podcast. We talk about things, not talking about them.
Yeah. Are they talking about me?
Right.
We had an agent who, I guess 24 hours before a detail was, I guess, a little too relaxed.
Okay.
Was saying his fellow colleagues, I've been doing this a long time. Okay. And I guess was saying this while smoking a cigar out on the street and getting ready. And one of someone asked him, hey, aren't you supposed to be doing your dance right now? And he's like, yeah, I did it earlier. did a quick. I know the city. I know the lay of the land. And literally, it was almost like a movie scene in the dead of the night under a nice street light. He was boasting about how the city is his, and anyone he takes care of is secure, forever secure. So if we fast forward, less than 24 hours later, I got a call, and this gentleman not just sounded spastic, he sounded like a scared little boy who, and that's the truth. I'm just being very, very transparent with it.
Yeah.
Total 180. Okay. And he made a mistake in location and didn't end up picking up his principal. Okay. When they were looking for him, it just so happened that that camp, they didn't want to stay in the location they were in. And they were ringing him off the hook, and back and forth, they were trying to coordinate a meeting point. And this gentleman from our team didn't know exactly where they were and how to get to them. And the structure of the actual property impeded him from getting to his client. Okay. And again, they say like a plane doesn't just go down because of one thing. It's usually 6 or 7 variables that almost are all fluke as individuals. You know, that never happens, and that never happens. But when there's a domino effect of a couple of them, it greatly increases the chance that that aircraft is going to go down. And that's kind of exactly what happened. When we look back, there was a number of just little things that we should have checked, that we should have made sure, that we should have not have taken for granted or taken someone just for their laissez-faire answer. Okay. What ended up happening is gentleman got fired off the detail before he even started. Okay. And it sent a wave through our team because this gentleman was highly respected within that team. Okay. So you can just imagine, it's like, oh my, what happened to him? This guy's a titan. Yeah. Okay. And we realized at the core, you know, the thoroughness with which we approached everything is that we can just never take it for granted. As much as someone has had skin in the game and has solid feet and knows exactly what they're doing, there's still an element of being connected to the work to ensure. And it's not in a micromanagement aspect. I think if there's one thing we can learn is literally never be above the basics, the fundamentals. I mean, I think of it like, you know, from a martial art background, if a black belt or, you know, the sensei asks a black belt to do a demonstration and it's just a basic stance, it's not beneath him to show that stance. Okay. There's something in that repetitive mastery that I guess in one way we suffered from it. We said, you know what, don't disrespect the man. And it's not about that. It needs to be about mastery. And mastery is going over all the little simple basics over and over and over. And maybe even using that opportunity to teach someone new. So as we speak with one of our senior agents, what the plan is and what they're going to be doing, you have someone else in the room and gets an idea and they get to learn, and it's a teachable moment. I mean, I remember hearing, if you want to know something, if the test, if you know something is if you can teach it.
Yeah,
okay.
100%.
And yeah.
You know, it's funny what Mike said in regards to like doing something over and over again.
Yeah.
So we've had the gentleman that leads our close protection training. His name is Joe Balls. He was with the RCMP for 31 years in the VIP unit. So basically, his responsibility was to train RCMP, which would be equivalent in the U.S. to Secret Service, to ensure that the VIP for the Prime Minister, any affiliations with the royal family, it was under his training. So when he retired, we brought him on board. Yeah. And he does a lot of training. And we've had some of our guys say, I mean, I don't understand. Why are we doing the same thing over and over and over again, right? I mean, it's like one of those things. And I mean, I wanted to stop that story right now. And let's just say I'm going to just throw this example because you're obviously from LA. Let's just say LeBron James says, you know what? Why are we dribbling the ball every day? Why are we taking shots? I mean, from the free throws line. What is this? I mean, I know how to do a free throw. Why are we doing it?
Yeah.
I mean, someone could easily say, well, of course they got to practice, because if they don't, they're going to get rusty, and then they're going to obviously miss the ball, the baskets, and miss opportunities. So why is it that in some areas it could be like accepted to practice and hone your craft and do it over, but some others it's like, oh, why am I walking with the talent? Why do I have to look for this and do that? So I mean, at the end of the day, it's all perspective, and it all comes down to the mind and what you program your mind to do and how to think and how to do things. And I think that is actually people's biggest enemy as well. It's just that the way they project something before they do it, because they can't see, for whatever reason, anything outside of their lens, right?
Yeah.
And I think at the end of the day, you know, if they have that openness to saying, I'm going to take this as a new opportunity, as a new learning, I'm going to probably see something here a little different that I've never seen before. I mean, have you ever looked at something in your house or maybe like a regular place you see all the time? You're like, hey, I don't remember that flag being there.
Yeah.
But the flag's always
been there the whole time.
Yeah, it's always been there. So,
Yeah.
I mean, look at it from that perspective. You might see something from a different point of angle, from a different perspective that'll, you know, add to something that you might learn from.
Yeah, 100%. And I think too, you know, with regards to repetition, something I've learned is really with shooting a lot, you know, with competitive shooting, you know, going back through the stages and, you know, you learn to, I'm not even going to use the word master, but you become proficient with your firearm enough to aim at a target and hit it, aim at a target and hit it. And then you start to go through the stages. And what starts to happen is you don't have to consciously focus on certain aspects of what you're doing because they've become almost unconsciously competent, as we've all heard the stages and stuff. So like, you know, you walk with your client, you're walking with your client, you're rehearsing it, you know, you're rehearsing, you know, the things that you're supposed to do on a daily basis with regards to security. Well, those things are going to take less cognitive bandwidth. You know what I'm saying? So now you've got so much more bandwidth to focus on all the different little like nuances and things that are taking place. The guy that's out of place stands out more because you're not like, hey, where am I at in this formation and what's my next step? No, that stuff's second nature. It's you now. That's you've ingested. It's become part of you now. Now you are just like you're driving the car. You're cooking with tartar sauce, as we say. You know, like now you're unconsciously cognitive, unconsciously competent. You know.
Yes.
Yeah, man. I dig it. I dig it. No, that's good. And that learning experience you were talking about, Michael, that's, man, there's just so much that you can take away from that, you know, from the ego, you know, causing him to become inaccurate, you know, because pride comes before a fall. And I'm convinced that I think it's because the pride makes you inaccurate. You stop, like confidence is accurate. Like people can look at confidence and think it's ego if they don't know what you're capable of. You know, but when they see there's a humility mixed in there and you're like, no, honestly, I am capable of doing this. I think confidence is accurate and ego is inaccurate. So that was like one of his first mistakes.
Yeah.
No,
it set the course. That attitude toward it set the course.
Yeah. And then when you're inaccurate like that, he's not seeing the little, you know, Murphy walking around inside the detail with a baseball bat, just crushing things, setting him up, you know, just setting him up.
And that's why we're grateful. The breakdown was just a pickup, and they were able to resolve, move on. Okay. You know? But for us, it drove a stake in what happened that led to this.
Yeah.
Okay? And it wasn't. We had to, I guess, investigate, ask some difficult questions, but I think there's one thing that we were constantly growing in is to be able to ask those difficult questions up front. So if we see an individual who is struggling or is maybe getting a little jaded and being a little abrasive with their colleagues, that team that they should be valuing so much, you're seeing just issues coming out. We found that if at some point we will have to have a difficult conversation with them, but it's so much better to have it earlier than later.
Right.
When it's a response versus a reaction. And it's, you know, because there's going to be collateral damage. There's going to be some things that happen we won't be able to recoup and possibly recover from. And we've seen that too. And that's where we thought, oh man, if we only just said this 1 month previous or whatever time it was, we could have saved them from this. And I get that's again the responsibility of leadership for us. We don't. For us, it's a real thing. It has nothing to do with a title. It has nothing to do with anything fancy or cushy. For us, leadership is a huge, huge responsibility. And we're always, I mean, I guess what's great within our team is the leadership that we have. We're always constantly trying to refine and help each other. We all acknowledge we have a blind spot. There's things that we do confidently, and there's things we're completely blind to. And we need each other's voice. You know, in that scripture, you know, in the counsel of many, there's safety.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's very, very applicable to the security world. Okay.
Yeah. Absolutely. No, 100%. I like that a lot, man. And that's a verse that I've used a lot, because I'm an ambitious guy, and
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
like I'm like, I remember even in boot camp, my instructors were like, they were like, you're not very smart, so you're going to be real strong, and I like, it
Right.
stuck with me. So I like, I'll ask everybody, wise counsel. I that's wisdom, 100%.
Absolutely. Yes.
Now, where you guys are, up in Canada, you have to do a lot of stuff unarmed, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Right.
So, can you speak on that a little bit? Because I know that, for me, I was like a little bit like, yo, what's the approach, and you guys handle your business. But I just want to hear you guys break down kind of the approach that you guys have to that.
For sure. I mean, it's a very common. I mean, obviously we have several clients in the U.S. and whenever we have new ones or even our existing clientele that'll call and be like, hey, listen, we have this situation going on. We're going to need 2 CPR operatives. I just want to make sure they are armed. And I'm like, actually, no, they're not. I mean,
right.
In Canada, you cannot be armed unless. I mean, first of all, in close protection, no, at all across the board. There is no exemptions in Canada for close protection. But when it comes to like security in general, you have to be like protecting asset, right? So, jewelry, or money, anything of that sort. I mean, they don't classify humans as assets here,
assets,
right?
apparently.
Yeah. So because of that, when someone is used to hearing that coming from the world of the U.S., right, where everything is surrounded around close protection with armed. I mean, for the most part, it's like, whoa. I mean, what do we do now? I mean, like it's like we still have to come, but how is it going to be carried out? So for us, I mean, really, what it comes down to, your tool is your communication, right, and your brains, right? I mean, that's what it really comes down to.
That's what it should be coming down to, anyways. Yeah, I mean, like,
of course.
Yeah, right.
But it's like in your security assessment, if you're going to be doing an event or you're going to have a VIP coming down, is planning, right? It's all in your planning and creating contingencies to ensure that if something does go off, that you have the supports, and that's pretty much like from the most. I mean, I can just create up a whole bunch of fluff words, right? And say we do it with the body. That's the bare bones. I mean, you have to basically carry it on your own. I mean, some guys I know have bulletproof vests that that do the work, but for the most part, I mean, being Canada and being for the country that we are, I mean, we have gun violence here. I mean, this year alone, I think we're hitting a record high of homicides through gun violence. I mean, it's obviously increasing every year. And at the end of the day, I mean, it does come up within our country as well. Maybe we need to carry guns. Maybe we need to do this. I don't see it happening. I really don't see it happening. I find that it's very controlled. And because it's controlled, I mean, you kind of weigh the option. I mean, do we bring in guns and then maybe face this happening, or do we just continue to operate in the way we do and just use our resources here a little more effectively?
Yeah, I mean, to me, a protection plan, you maximize the tools you have, the resources available to you. And if there's anything, I guess it's just, we can't major on a firearm because it's not at play. So once that's off the table, you have to get creative. I mean, at the core, you have to really be creative, and you can't take certain things for granted in terms of, you don't want to have a response where you need to get out of the X. I mean, we have a gentleman, a senior agent that's on our team, who was the head of VIP close protection for a U.S. embassy in Cairo, Egypt, for a number of years. And he is in Toronto now and working with our team. And he's individually fought against, as a military police, he individually fought against the group that gave birth to the Muslim Brotherhood, which gave birth to ISIS. Okay, he actually knows a lot of these individuals by name as he was policing them. Secondly, he went through the revolution that they had. He was barricaded in that U.S. embassy for 2 months, where they took all the public took all the police cars and burned them and tried to bomb different facets on the exterior of the building, and they just tried to stay alive for 2 months, having no other option.
That's
He he's been in shark infested waters. That's one way we describe it. You know, in Toronto is relatively safe. And you have a gentleman who comes from an area, the part of the world that isn't.
Yeah.
And it's funny. This is where he's the person who reminds our team always that you don't need a firearm for protection. Okay. Is bodyguarding? Yes. You know, tactically approaching the work, there's a place for it. But he tells our team on the regular, if you fight, you fail. Okay. It's that simple. And he would show us videos of, you know, I mean, these world famous breakdowns, these assassinations where there were 20 up to 50 agents surrounding that principal, and that there was still an attack. And in the midst of an attack, not even factoring a secondary attack and what that could actually bring on, he always pauses the video and he says, no matter what you do, the fact that you are under fire, your goal, yes, is to get out of the X, but you're going to lose no matter what. If you're fighting, you failed somewhere. The other thing he also says is you can't hit a target that you don't see. Okay. So there's one thing, these soft skills that we've spoken about personally about, we rely on them heavily to have great relations throughout our city. For us, protection means essentially on the ground, great relations. We need to know the city top to bottom. We need to know that alleyway and where it leads to. We need to know which hotel will allow us certain privileges that another won't. We need to know that Italian restaurant on this side of the city where the GM will have. I mean, there's like all of those little details of knowing the lay of the land is how we do protection incredibly well, and we do it effectively. And because we're secure, we tell our team constantly, don't look for opportunities to try to shine. It's almost the exact opposite. Make your work disappear. It should almost disappear into the element of what is actually happening there. No one should know it, should feel it, should see you. If you have a whole group of people who are looking at you, they're not validating you. You're exposing yourself. We have an agent who travels through Northern Africa and through parts of Eastern Europe, and he has to switch. He can only work with his principal for 2 weeks at a time, because if he stays longer, he'll be targeted and they'll essentially try to kill him. Okay. So it's out of necessity. He tells our team, you're not trying to stand out in any way. You're trying to blend in the best way possible. And it's all about your planning and the trust you have with your team and your ability to execute on that plan. So I say that just because as much as we have our approach, we're blessed to have two brothers in the game that they have had no other option than to have to work smart.
Man. I chew on that. Like, take it just a quick second, people. Like, I don't know. I mean, I guess, you know, depending on where you are, you'll appreciate it or not in your development. But there's just so much good things you said there, like, you know, the attention thing. I mean, so many guys in the game, and honestly, it's like human nature. You want your work to be seen. You want it to be acknowledged. And in the EP game, we kind of flip everything on its head when we're kind of like, look, we're working to kind of disappear. We really don't want any attention drawn to us. We want our client to literally be able to live their life without really feeling that we want them to know the support of us being there, but without us obstructing anything and any movements that they want. You know, it's kind of like we're here, but we're not here. I always tell them like I'm just here to allow you to live your life in the safest way possible, you know? And you really, really articulated it very, very effectively, you know, but that's really the art form. And, you know, a lot of what we do, and on the detail, guys are trying to outshine each other and things like this. You know, these are like kind of normal things we work through. But when you really can, and the guys that survive the longest are kind of the guys that are like, I don't know, able to do a good job and stay out of the client's hair, you know?
Exactly.
You know, the guy that's trying to like have a relationship and show up all the time is the guy that gets on everyone's nerves. You know?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Man, that's good stuff. And, you know, with regards to the firearms, it's true. You know, that is a last ditch. Like, I mean, even for us, I think it's kind of like, if you have to pull your firearm, it's almost like and this might go over like Well, I'm gonna say it anyways. You know, it's a little bit. It's kind of a dishonor. You know, it's if it ever gets to that point, if you have to draw your weapon, you have failed on numerous occasions. And now here we are, kind of like what we were talking about earlier. You know, there's been these little minor failures here and there, and now you're in this situation. So, you know, for the goal being, you know, to make sure it never gets there, that's awesome. And then also, I mean, for you guys, that just is the game. Like, you don't have that to work with. So like you really have to be that much sharper at everything, you know, it adds that to it. So
I mean, at the end of someone's career in protection, you know, they can say the number of kills they have of the bad guys, or they can say, I've never had to break leather. Never had to, you know, and it takes a certain type of individual who can say that confidently. And they know their prep, they know the work they put in, they know what they could have done and been capable should have something happened. But it's the wrong type of game to try to prove your worth, you know, combatively, especially with a client. You know, I mean, it's exactly like Karate Kid. I mean, I thought we'd get to that movie a little earlier. For me, you'll notice a lot of conversations lead to that movie. But you know, but that whole thing of just like wanting to use the skills that you have, that the eagerness, like I know this, and Miyagi's wise words that, you know, because you know it is, this is why you don't fight. You know, it gives you a greater understanding of what it is. We'll even have these conversations where, when you were talking about how, when you're reiterating about blending and kind of taking a step back so that your client can just live the safest life possible. You know, a lot of what we do in Toronto is we look after talent, because being Hollywood North and having TIFF, which is huge film festival, and if you want to flip everything that we kind of say through the year, gets flipped on its head during TIFF, because you're right in the limelight and everything. Like there's no escaping. Okay, there's no way. We've had agents where Hollywood Reporter, Variety, they've written articles about some, like our agent by name. Okay, and there's like literally, they're like he was with a client, and there's comments on how he looks and who he looks like, and they thought he's not like, and
just blew him
someone, yes, exactly, you know, and so those are the challenging things. It's where you know, we go through so many weeks in a year setting a tone, and there's a way that we approach the work, and then these festivals, these red carpets, these certain moments that they're not indicative to everyday life and protection, but they're also a part of it, you know. And I think something that what we do is we ground it. I've had conversations with some personnel directly, and I said, look, I used to enjoy it when I was in the field, and I remember once when I was looking after a principal for 3 days, and he had a real death threat on his life. Okay, and I let them know all the fancy glitz and glam. I sobered up quick. Okay. Knowing that from an internal camp, there was a viable death threat, that they showed us the source of the threat, where it came from, who this person was in relation to our principal. And for 3 days, there was not a relaxed moment at all, in any way, shape, or form. We took nothing for granted. It was highly publicized, where this principal was walking. He had a huge concert that he was doing, a beloved kind of intimate concert with 3,000 people, close proximity to his fan base. And man, I don't remember one camera. I don't remember like anything about what you might, you know, in an immature way, get home and think, I hope I looked good on that picture.
Yeah.
All of that got checked because of a real reality and protection. So I say that because that's something I think, again, as leadership, you can prime. You can prime them to get them ready for what to expect. There's just something really great about that, being able to, as you said, like to get the counsel, to be fed wisdom. Listen, this is what it's going to look like. These are the ditches. These are the pitfalls. Focus on these things. These are going to be your out. This is what's going to keep you to walk safe and wise, and keep your client safe.
Yeah, 100%. And I think there's so much to be said for keeping that, being able to maintain that mindset, even when things are good. You know, when you're at the steak dinner with your client at the security table, you know, the security. But being able to keep that that seriousness. I feel lucky because the Iraq thing, you know, they're like, oh, you have PTSD, you're hypervigilant. Look, man, I am hypervigilant and I love it. I love it. You know, like I love just paying attention to everything and realization that I could die at any minute, you know, and I mean, if I wasn't doing this as a job, I'd be doing this anyway, you know?
I like that. Yeah.
But, because and you know what? On that, I think really good protection agents and protection guys, man, I think it's just in us. I think it just, like, if I really look at like my makeup, you know, who I am, you know, as a husband, as an eventual father, as Byron Rodgers, like in a room with people, they're safer because I'm there. And that's something that is staked inside of just my character, you know? And so the protection thing is organic. It's so organic, you know? I think that's true with a lot of guys that are good in the game.
So some, I guess, they'll even say it's a calling, you know, it didn't matter when they were 7 or 17 or whatever. They always just felt responsible for their group, always, no matter what. They do not think of themselves in any situation. Whether it's something violent growing up or some dynamic, they always stuck their neck out for someone, even for a stranger. There's something inherent about that. For us, that's a real quality that we value, that we let people know. To work in protection, to work in security, there's an incredible dignity because there's as we spoke in LA, that was one of the things we spoke about. Just that love of serving, the call to serve, and to love. At the core, that's what we do. You know, and serve whether or not it's acknowledged, whether or not it's appreciated. No one's applauding you. Someone might even verbally disrespect you while you're doing that. But there's something about driving home or just knowing that that you did something true to yourself. I think that's kind of what you're talking about.
Right.
Absolutely.
And then, you know, at the dinner party or when you're with your spouse and they're saying, why would you do that? Like, and we've spoken about this kind of just working security in some of the bad venues of the city. We found, you do not consider yourself. There's just something, I think, that maybe God builds in you, in your DNA, in your makeup, that when someone needs help, you run without thinking about self. You know?
Yeah, 100%, man. That's the good stuff. That's good stuff. That's good. So one more question. I want to respect you guys' time. We could flow like this for hours.
Yeah. This is part one, man.
This is just part one. No, for real though, actually, really, real quick. And then we'll break out of here. So executive protection mindset, kind of what would you say to either a newcomer or someone in executive protection that's really trying to like gather some data on how they can be better? What do you think the ideal executive protection mindset is? What's the mindset you want your guys to have when they're out there in the field?
To answer this question, on my end, I would say kind of like a couple of comments back about the humility piece, right? Look,
it's a great question.
Yeah,
great question.
Again, I'm going to go back to sports. I like bringing sports back to quite a bit because it's a team-oriented thing, right?
It is, and it's kind of battle-oriented too. Sport, there's a lot of sports, man.
Absolutely.
You get those intangibles.
To have that quality of humility, to be able to take away I from the whole equation is you'd think on the surface it'd be very easy, but again, a lot of people, I find that when they step into an industry like this, they think they know what they're stepping into, right? And they actually have no idea. They have no idea whatsoever, right? So to come in to have that humility to say, listen, I want to come in and learn and take away from things, is a big quality for us. In sports, if you have your starting lineup and they're basically their goal is to win, and you have one person that ends up, or two or three becoming selfish with the ball, for example.
Yeah.
Look at when the West and the East play together in the All-Star weekend, right? You have the best of the best all playing together. Defense is thrown out the window. It all turns into an offense show. And basically it's who can score. At the end of the day, there's no strategy. There's nothing involved. But at the end of the day, you have all these elements that are getting thrown in because someone says, no, give it to me, give it to me, give it to me. It's not a good strategy, right? So for us, if you think about what we do in close protection, where you're basically looking at protecting individuals, I mean, not even in close, but even in security, anything to do in our industry or industries that are transferable across the world, if you don't come in with this mentality that you're going to come in and be a player, that you're going to learn it, that you're going to absorb, you're going to end up creating a domino effect of failure.
Yeah, of failure.
Yeah, exactly. And for us, that's basically where I take that skill as the highest piece. And some may call it a skill because you have to develop it. Others may be like, absolutely, it's a quality that you should have. I mean, Mike, what do you think?
Yeah, I'd say Constantine's really great at that, at getting people to step out of what they're saying or complaining or what they, the current situation that they're standing in. He has a way of bringing them out and walking them through exactly the domino effect, that this will now possibly lead to this, and then this, and then this. And he helps them and he gives them credit for them to walk through, because he'll call them. You're saying this, you're approaching the work as such. You know that if you do that, you might be vulnerable to these things.
Right.
And if you're vulnerable to these things, you might try to make up for it by blaming others. Okay. And when you start blaming others, you're actually you're not bringing credit to yourself. You're discrediting yourself. And why does that work? And as
you're giving up
as you
power,
yes, and you just exactly. And as you lay it down for them, you have to give them credit that they'll get it. I mean, if they don't, then right there, that's like an indicator that away from the field, in a calm huddle for their sake, if they can't see it, they're not going to see it on the field. There's no way.
I've had guys that when they're looking at hiring agents, they'll come in and saying, "This is my price tag, okay, and this is what I've done, and this is what I should be getting for my services."
Yeah, so I think.
And then I would say, okay, I respect that, but I don't know that directly. I mean, you could have been doing things to your way that could have been wrong, right? So I want to see you do it in our system and see how you do. And if I find that you can do it, I'd be more than happy to give you what your price, what you're naming as your price.
Yeah.
Because I find what happens a lot of the time, Byron, is that you are a legend in your own mind. Literally, that's what it comes down to. You know what I mean?
I know I am. I am a legend. Every day I wake up. I love it. I love it.
We're all LeBron. All of us are LeBron.
Absolutely. But I mean, at the end of the day, that's where also humility checks in a bit, right? It's like, okay, great. I'm going to take this as a challenge to show them what I can do, right? It's actually made us retweak our systems internally to be like, look, let's see you do this for the next 60 days. Let's see how you do, how consistent you are. I mean, we don't even throw that number out. Sometimes it's an internal number for us to see, can you sustain? We were talking about this the other day. I'm not sure what it is like in the US when it comes to probation on a new job, but in Canada, there's a 3-month window that they give you that you can hire somebody. And for whatever reason, if you're not happy with them, you have that 3 months to say, thanks very much. You're just not a right fit for us, right? Yeah. It's basically firing with just cause, right?
Right.
And we were talking about the other day, how do they come up to that window? Like, why 3 months? And I mean, the more and more we see people evolve in what they do, it's actually a good window to really see someone. Can you be consistent over and over and over and over and over again in that window? And if you can, basically after 3 months, you're choosing not to do that anymore. It's an actual choice now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's no longer a skill thing. So, I mean, to me, I use that example because at the end of the day, really, it all comes down to, are you a humble individual?
Yeah. Where's your baseline of your character?
Where's your exactly.
Yeah. And the humility piece. So, no, that's huge. I mean, it is. And a lot of guys coming from different backgrounds and different careers, I mean, the cognitive dissonance that would ensue from that is respectable. You've already gone through 20, 30 years somewhere. You're a made man. You got rank. You have experience. What you were doing was difficult and sophisticated, and now you're going to step into security. I really want to restore a lot of the honor back to security because, like we were talking about, like this is an honorable endeavor. People used to die. You're securing the king, the royal family. This is honorable stuff. But now you're like, I'm going to do security, make some side money, and you just think, depending on to the degree you get involved, it's more or less, easier complicated maybe, but I don't
Right.
know. I feel like we can all trip on things if we don't respect them. If the inaccuracy of arrogance can jam anybody up doing anything.
Absolutely.
But gentlemen, hey, we for sure we gotta continue this conversation.
Yeah, man.
It has been so good talking and hanging
Yeah.
with y'all again. Time flies.
Amazing.
But where are you guys at? What are you doing now? Where can we find you? Where can we find you guys, and what's going on with your business?
So obviously we're Sentinel Security Plus. You just type that in Google, bam, you see us. Yeah. But what we're doing right now is, literally look at it in three parts. The first part is we're continuing, in all assets, we're continuously finding ways to raise the bar. Okay, that's one of the things that we're continuously doing, right? And that's a big focus piece.
Mm-hmm.
The second thing that I would say that we're really focusing on doing is fine-tuning the product that we have to ensure that we can replicate that outside of the country.
Mm-hmm.
And for us right now, there's some opportunities that are presenting themselves that we might entertain them, but for us, we need to ensure that we are 100% secure in security before we do that.
Boom, love it.
Yeah.
The demand is great right now.
We're
in a very privileged place to have incredible demand right now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and the last thing that we're doing is we're amping our training. We're looking at just taking it to a different level, just to get into the mold of just here's how we do things now here on this level.
Okay.
So at the end of the day, it is keeping us quite busy, and there's so much to do. But you got to chip away, man. You got to do like Shawshank Redemption, just chip away at that wall. You know what I mean?
Man, get your spoon or your whatever. Just chip away.
Exactly.
I'm with you at that, man.
Yeah, I say this. I think what's awesome, as much as we've laid down, much as the ground that we've broken, the things that we've pioneered and brought new to the game, it never gets dull and it never gets boring. And we almost on the regular turn to each other and the group that we're with, and we always say it just feels like we're getting started. Almost always.
That's awesome.
And we're not just saying it for the sake of saying it. Like we really just feel like we're getting started, and that commitment to getting better, the commitment to growth, and and growth means that you're going to go through things that you don't like, that resistance, because that resistance is what brings growth. When you embrace it, it's in a whole, you can actually enjoy it. I remember training. You do. When you train hard physically, you get into, not everyone experiences this, but there's that zone where punishment or just like doing something that you could that you can't get through or would normally sign up to do. There's something like almost addictive to it, invigorating.
It takes on a life of its own. Yeah,
it does. It takes on a life on its own, and you're just you're so present, and no one sitting on their couch in their right mind would sign up for that journey.
Yeah.
Okay. Sometimes we go through a couple of weeks straight of just like incredible workload, and we recoup and we say, okay, let's do it again.
Absolutely.
The next thing and the next thing.
Yeah. That's awesome.
But it's good to what Mike said about how we look at ourselves. I actually referenced this many times in conversations. In the 70s, you have Steve Wozniak and Steve Jobs in their garage building what we have today as Apple products, building what was just established a couple of weeks ago as a $1 trillion company. Okay. And I tell people, we are Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak in our version of our garage, building something that we're going to throw out and revolutionize what we're going to do, at least to start in our city of Toronto. And that is what drives us to say, to bring out the nuances and the new pieces that can just bring to that. So,
that's what's up, man.
In a nutshell, that's what we're doing.
That's what you're doing. Boom, man.
Yeah.
I guess that's what's energizing about it. It's just a commitment to bring our best and be our best, not to be better than someone else. Not at all. We never talk about it. It's just to be our best. How can we be our best?
Right.
And when you're focused on yourself, it's so crazy. It's just different mentalities people come from, based on where they're at in their journey. But when you're really focused on you and your game and being the best you can be, it's not even, it's like a devaluation of yourself to focus on somebody else. You know what I mean? Like
Exactly.
you
It's true.
really,
Right.
there's so much you need to learn. And like what you said, it feels like we're just getting started. That says so much about the mindset that you guys come from. I'm going to adopt that phrase, because if you're really in a mode of learning, and if you're really in a mode of growth, and if you're really paying attention to everything that's happening around you in the game, in life, whatever job it is, you really can keep that mindset as it's just like you just started, because the information's there, the experience is there, all the new data points that you need to go to the next level are there. It's just that so many of us become so callous and conditioned to our environments that we fail to maintain that new mindset and look for all the information, because when you first get into something and you're new, you start driving the car for the first time, you're like sensory overload, then you write the systems and everything to do that, and the software of your mind, and then you take things for granted. Right. If you can keep that, it's just like I just started mindset. I think growth is like an exponential thing that organically, buzzword would bring it full circle, that organically happens. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Anyways, wow, what an honor. I love conversating with you gentlemen, man. It's good stuff. It's high quality content,
For sure, man.
So, boom. Hey, till the next time. Thanks so much for your time, and it's an honor being on here and having you on here. So,
Byron, thank you so much, man. Thank you for having us.
Yeah, we're gonna grab a quick lunch and then we'll just do another one. Okay.
Right. That's what's up. All right, gentlemen. Boom.
Okay. It was a pleasure.
Boom. And to support this podcast, go to executiveprotectionlifestyle.com and contribute to our Patreon account. That Patreon account is what helps me make this podcast possible, contributing to this brand, what we're doing here, making it so that I can bring better guests on, making it so that we can plan more events and just expand the contribution to the private security industry, and also to making America a safer place by teaching people how to protect themselves and the mindset behind that, the lifestyle behind that. You guys are already killing it. $1 a month, $5 a month, $10 a month, $20 a month, whatever you can do that you would probably just lose in the mattress anyway, or spend on McDonald's. Hey, you want to put it towards something that's going to good use, put it towards a podcast, and get involved in our Patreon account at executiveprotectionlifestyle.com. And if you want to find me, that's byronrogersmotivation.com. Do whatever you can, contribute whatever you can to that Patreon account, because it makes all of these things possible, ladies and gentlemen. So much love. Thank you for making those contributions. You guys rock. We're already doing amazing there, and it's just because of you guys. So thanks once again for those contributions. Boom. I hope you guys enjoyed that episode of Executive Protection Lifestyle Podcast. This whole entire thing actually just started off as a Facebook group that blew up and is one of the fastest growing, if not the fastest growing, executive protection Facebook group online. So if you haven't joined the Facebook group, join the Facebook group. Follow us on Instagram and check us out at executiveprotectionlifestyle.com. If you want to find me, that's byronrogersmotivation.com, and I'm on all the social media platforms, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook as well. So until the next podcast, y'all, stay sharp out there. And as I say it, one mind, many weapons. Talk soon. Out.